Okay, Nick, I'm going to ask you a question that is something a lot of USMNT fans have been discussing in recent years, but more specifically, recent months. Is Christian Pulisic the best player in US men's national team history? I mean, this start to the season of AC Milan, incredible. 5 goals in 7 Serie A games, 6 in 9 in all competitions. He's just 26 years old, and I think we are now probably seeing the best version of Pulisic we've ever seen. Do you agree with that? And he just seems to be at home at AC Milan. He's finally found the league, the club, kind of just the place to be the talisman, and makes me very happy to see that.
Yeah, people were asking these questions 3 years ago, and it was obviously too soon, but it was interesting that we looked at the trajectory and saw it as possible. And this is what I want to say. I think we might not have seen this Christian Pulisic had he not been on the path he was on. A perfect storm of taking an extremely talented player and putting three key pieces of extra motivation into what was already a fiery competitor. You had him, who was exceptional when he was young, and they failed to make the World Cup. He was not at fault there, but he had to live through that ignominy, and it's something that's clearly inside of him. Then the injuries he faced, and the questions about his durability, when looking back on it, these were really tricky injuries to maneuver. And third, the way he was yo-yoed around at Chelsea. All of that conspired inside of an elite talent of a player to make him even more of a fiery competitor. I don't remember if it was you or Andy Edwards, but he scored a goal recently for Milan where he did 4 celebrations in 4 seconds before he got to the touchline. And you just say, there's such fire in him. And that's when I felt it was fair to start to say, with all due respect to Landon Donovan, is Christian Pulisic capable of being the best player in USMNT history? Yes. Is he on pace to having the best couple of seasons that we've seen since Clint Dempsey absolutely tore up the Premier League, and I believe it was the Europa League that season? And the answer is also yes. We may be saying at the end of this season that Christian Pulisic has reached the peak of any player that we've ever seen in a U.S. player playing in Europe. And from an outsider, so to speak, Joe, you're American as well, but in someone who grew up on the continent or on a different continent, is that fair? Do you remember that's right during your wheelhouse, Dempsey? Is it fair to say that Pulisic is there?
I actually think he's above it. I think he
Really?
is the best player in USMNT history. Wow. I totally believe. If you look at what he's done consistently, Champions League now for a long, long time, nearly a decade now, playing in the Champions League in the top flights of Europe. And I think it's huge. The last season was huge for me because I didn't know he had it in him to play 50 games in a season, make 50 appearances, score 15 goals for a huge team like AC Milan. Had these question marks about him because I think we all agreed that we understand why he went to Chelsea, but we all had severe reservations. Then kind of came to fruition, right? The physicality of the Premier League, that young in his career, and just the way that Chelsea's run as a club, how many players they bring in every season, wasn't going to be a great environment for him. But when I actually look at his body of work and you start looking at the stats when it comes to the US men's national team, I mean, we're talking about a player that is already, when we look at the goals list, right, he's already 5th all time in terms of goals. And he has the best goals per game ratio in that kind of top 10 of goal scorers of 0.42 goals per game. So he's nearly at a goal every other game for the US in his career right now. The only thing he's kind of missing, I suppose, is what Dempsey did and Donovan did, was just to do it in a World Cup and do it consistently in back-to-back World Cups and then take the US, I guess, to the quarterfinals. That's the next step for him. But he already scored the winner in the group stage of the last World Cup to take him to the last 16. And I don't know what more he really needs to do to prove to everybody that he is the best player in history. And he's only 26. And now that he has consistency in his game, knock on wood, the fitness issues have been resolved. I think he's going to just go to a whole new level. I think any US player in the future is going to find it really hard to get anywhere near his level. So again, all of that wrapped up with winning the Champions League with Chelsea, playing a key role in that. And just now to see him at Milan doing what he's doing week in, week out for them and being their main man, I don't think we've ever seen any US player ever do this in history. And I'm really excited to see what he can do under Pochettino. What are your thoughts on all that? I went on for a while.
No, but that's right. And I love it because, I think I honestly worry about both the recency bias and, national team bias. So to hear it, that's why I asked you, because I do feel he's right there. And I also have an incredible vibe, affinity, whatever you want to say, for Dempsey, where he came from, etc. But to see Pulisic, kind of embody that same, you're not going to bleep with me, and I'm going to drag this team forward. Look back at what he's done. He showed up in Copa America. I know that he didn't get the goals that people wanted. He was put in a tricky situation. That Uruguay team was very, very good, but he scores in the opener, a goal and an assist. He scores against Brazil before that. You go back to that first Nations League final and the epic game. He was phenomenal. He shows up in big games. He seems to have that edge too, that the man in the mirror t-shirt that he wears under his jersey. He remembers things and he embodies it in that sort of, I don't know if it's healthy, but that sort of sick Michael Jordan competitor way. I love it. And I am very, very excited to see what he does with Pochettino, because I think Pochettino loves a player like him. I think he loves to work with that guy who lives the game, and it should be fun.
Yeah, I can't wait to see whether he plays wide or central or just what Poch thinks is the best thing to do for him, because he's worked with so many young, talented playmakers. I mean, Cole Palmer is the most recent example, what he did for him at Chelsea last season. So he has a great manager there to work with and get the best out of him. And I'm just looking through the list of all-time top goal scorers for the USMNT, and Eric Wijnaldum, Josie Altidore, Landon Donovan, and Clint Dempsey. Those are the only 4 players ahead of Pulisic. And again, his goals per game ratio is way better. He's close to Clint Dempsey, don't get me wrong. I mean, his career, I'm not playing down the careers of Dempsey, Donovan, all these great players before, but I just think to consistently do it at the top flight in Europe, Champions League, nobody has ever really been on this level. And I'm excited. I mean, Nick, what do you think is his career path after the next few years? It's hard to predict the future, but stays at AC Milan for another couple of years to like 28? And then do you see him kind of going back to the Premier League maybe, or even to Spain? I mean, that would kind of complete the set of Europe's top leagues. I mean, do we realistically think in Christian Pulisic's future that we could see him at a Barcelona, a Real Madrid, a Bayern Munich? I don't know. I'm just trying to think what the next step is for him. Or maybe it is he's really settled at AC Milan and stays there for the rest of his career. I don't know.
Yeah, I have to wonder. The only thing that scares me about that is at Milan, do they stick with – the reason we don't see players stick long at certain destinations is often because we don't see managers stay long. And,
sure.
Last year I thought the way Pioli got him to buy into being a wider player in terms of crossing and defending and showcasing his skills that way, there's a real bond and a real trust. So I like conceptually the idea of him staying there for 5 years, of him playing his entire, his entire prime there. I don't know that that's realistic. And so if I'm him though, depending on the wage situation, I think I've probably learned enough that I want to go somewhere where I've got a realistic shot of being the main man. And, Leao may leave, Pulisic's not leaving right now. Like, that's how integral he feels there. So I know I hedged and I didn't give you the answer that I wanted, but I think if it's possible for him to stay the man, or to stay I'm going to play every game if I'm healthy at AC Milan, then I think I've learned enough to say that's cool.
Yeah, I think he has as well, right? He's just been like, I've done the thing where I've been at Chelsea, a lot of competition. I don't need that anymore. I've kind of proven myself to kind of put a team on my back, and his goals, assists speak for itself. And I think maybe after a few years at AC Milan, if he gets into his late 20s, he's talked about it openly before that he would love to come back and play in the US in Major League Soccer at some point. And you could see him, be it Miami, LA, I don't know, one of the huge markets, definitely in the future, him having a huge contract there available if he wants to do that. And after, a home World Cup in less than 2 years' time, would seem like pretty good timing for him to come back to the States. But whatever happens, this debate will rumble on for many years to come. But yeah, we can all agree that Christian Pulisic is having a wonderful start to the season, and he is the main man both for AC Milan and the US men's national team moving forward. So head over to Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com, and we'll keep you up to date with what Pulisic's up to in Europe and for the USA.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host of NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And if you want even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock.